And I begin with sharing a video with you.
Just making sure you're up. 5 more minutes. Becca, let's go. Say cheese.
That was so cheeky. Oh my god. Oh my
god. Amanda, stop. She's done nothing to you. Get out of here. Go. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So being bullied, whether it occurs in childhood, adolescence, or adulthood, is a very excruciating experience. And so here in this video that has been created by CDC, we are called to be someone's hero. Or we are called to be, another way of saying that is to be an upstander to those who are being bullied, being spoken to or treated harshly, or being treated unjustly in any way because of their gender, sexual orientation, race, creed, physical or mental ability, physical appearance, age, and uniqueness. And not only are we called to be an upstander and a hero in the life of another, but we are also called to be our own upstander and our own hero. And that is what Matt Kahn, author of The Universe Always Has a Plan, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go, did. You see, he had the experience all throughout his childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood of being bullied. And he shares this in his book. I had always been singled out by others for being different. I endured verbal jabs and physical pain from those who gained amusement from the misfortune of others. This helped me further establish my codependent tendencies, since now upsetting others wasn't just the loss of acceptance and validation, but another potential moment of harassment. If you are so willing to be vulnerable, I invite you to place in the chat box yes, if you have ever had the experience of being bullied or been treated unjustly or harshly or criticized for any of those things I shared about race, appearance, age, so on and so on. I see all the courageous people. I too have had that experience. And as a teacher, I bear witness to it. And it broke my heart. And I did all that I could to empower individuals and do what I could. And what I want to share here is in Matt Kahn's book, he shares how he used his experiences of being bullied as a child and an adolescence, and even into being insulted and criticized and treated harshly and sometimes physically, um, as a child being physically hurt, how he did a deep dive to be his own hero and had a spiritual awakening and a spiritual healing. Now I'm going to share what came about for him and the inner work that he did as we begin to embark on today's golden rule, which is that through the process of gratitude, hardships can be fast tracked, and how he began to see this as a gift in his life. But before I do so, I do not want to bypass the physical experience of this. And if you are, or if anybody you know is in harm's way physically, that there is help out there. So yes, I want to embrace the lesson that is here before us, but I also want to make sure that if you are experiencing that or a loved one is experiencing that, that you do what you need to do to be safe, to reach out. And so I've asked Matt to put a couple of hotlines in the chat box if anybody should need that. And if there's any other support that you need after the service, I invite you to reach out to me. I have my email on the last slide. So Matt, if you could put those hotlines in there, I'd appreciate it. So you can see, oh, okay. So if you click that link, I'm just going to test it. So to make sure that they're there. Okay, yes. So you can open it, just double checking. And I have to go back to stop share and share again. And there we go. Hold on. It's not allowing me to go back. All right, here we go. Okay. So as I was sharing that the author of the book that we are looking at, Matt Kahn, had experiences not only in childhood and adolescence, but also in adulthood of being insulted, criticized, and spoken to in harsh ways, and even by family members. And so Matt recalls a moment, one of the moments, a big moment in his life when he was a young adult and he had a spiritual awakening. And it occurred when he was at a family reunion. And now we could read this together again with excitement. And some people maybe are like, together again. Anyway, depending on what your experience is, we come together to embrace it. So here Matt is at a family reunion, and an uncle approaches him and begins to insult him about the way he's addressed. And as his uncle is like hurling one insult after another, he knew that the intuitive voice from within was speaking to him. And it said this to him: what if you say thank you in response to any insult, judgment, or projection? Now he knew it was the voice from within. It was one of those moments where he kind of felt his hair stand up. And time kind of stood still, and he was like, say thank you when somebody is criticism. The intellect kind of like chimed in there. But he was so taken back, and he wasn't even listening at this point to whatever the uncle was, spewing. And he decided to walk away. He went outside. He became still. And in the stillness, this is what arose. At that moment, something deep inside me clicked into place. Since my daily intention had been and continues to be, may I be a gift that is received in the lives of everyone I encounter. Notice the key word, everyone. What if I received an insult as a gift sent from their divinity, even if gift wrapped by the projections of their ego? So Matt just sat with that, saying thank you, being centered in gratitude, seeing it as a gift that is coming from the divine soul of somebody rather than the personality that was appearing in front of him. And so a little bit later, he returns inside. And by this time, his uncle was rip-roaring drunk. And he approaches Matt, and I'm just going to share directly the dialogue from the book because it's pretty powerful. So the uncle comes before Matt and says, "You know what your problem is?" "No, I don't. But I'd love to hear what you'd have to say." "Your problem is you're just weird. I mean, who makes a living out of being a healer?" And at this moment, the uncle was so loud that all eyes in the room kind of were centered on Matt and his uncle. And there were even gasps in the room. And so Matt takes this deep breath and says, "There are many people in need of healing. Perhaps you're not one of them. Thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" "Thank you for your feedback. I'm interested in what you have to say." And so the uncle then becomes dumbfounded, and he had this puzzled look on his face. And then he says, "I just don't know why you thanked me." To which he replied, perfectly on cue, but centered and not in sarcasm, he stresses, "What can I say? I'm weird. Thank you." So this experience wind up being, like I said, a spiritual awakening for him. It was like time stood still. He really got what the meaning was of receiving everything as a gift. There was no longer the fire attached where he wanted to react and to be repulsed, where he had begun to do enough inner work where he knew his sacred worth, that those words didn't have fire in them. And so he began to say to himself, what if I begin a practice that when faced with insults, criticisms, judgments, and hate-filled words, that he would recognize the person that stood before them as a divine soul, as a gift to be received instead of responding to the unconsciousness they weren't prepared to take responsibility for, or even acknowledge or to be aware of. Not always easy to do, is that? To see a gift that's wrapped in someone standing before you in a drunken stupor, hurling insults at you. And so we've had those experiences. Maybe it's not been with somebody drunk, but someone being unkind and speaking words of hate-filledness, unkindness. And so as he began to take this into himself on a deep level, he began to thank everyone who came before him, everyone, those who he would classify as kind and helpful, strangers, those who were not so kind. And again, he had lots of family members to practice with. He came from a very dysfunctional family, and I think some of us can relate to having that there is no perfect family out there. And sometimes the people who are closest to us can give us the lessons that we seek, right? By those who come before. So he began this daily, ongoing, not just in meditation, but in all of his encounters for every situation, to thank it for being there present in his life. And then he had this aha for himself that he shares in the book. As I became aligned in the vibration of gratitude, I began to notice how the pattern of bullying or confrontation had disappeared from my life. Now, this is someone who experienced it all the way up into adulthood. I began to see that my constant, authentic usage of the words, "thank you," shifted my field of reality to bring me only outcomes, interactions, and characters whose contribution in my life matched the gratitude I constantly sent out. I came to see how good it felt to receive everything as a gift. Thank you became hardwired into me. The little boy who spent the majority of his life hiding from moments of judgment, denial, exclusion, embarrassment, and ridicule felt safe enough to step forward and merge with my adult self. This gave me the ability to open my heart to a greater capacity without being a larger moving target for other people's insecurities and frustrations. Pretty profound and not always so easy to do, which led to the formulation of golden rule number 3. Hardships can be fast-tracked through gratitude, through thankfulness. The golden rule number 3 mantra, which is what he practiced and what I shared, that anybody who came before him, regardless of their behavior, he would say, "Thank you for this gift." Now, he didn't always say thank you out loud. Sometimes he did, but he would at least say it to himself. So I want to look at thank you for this gift. Notice that the affirmation or the mantra begins with thank you. And the words thank you already begins to anchor you in the vibration of gratitude. It cues your willingness that this is something that you are willing to embrace as a gift, which takes us to the last word, gift. When we use the word gift, it contains the vibration that something is here, that you're willing to allow what is happening before you to be received for your highest good, for the evolution of your soul, despite appearances. He also states that it's a cosmic rule that anything received with the willingness of allowing will contain some form of benefit. And again, like I said earlier, we're not doing a bypass of not being safe. And I had shared those hotlines. So this is again about, after that's all said and done, to do this inner work that he calls us to. And so here is the spiritual practice that we're invited, if you so choose, to say yes to. So many of us have maybe been recipients. Again, we do project onto people's behavior, and then there's just clarity when somebody is saying, you're stupid, you'll never amount to nothing, you're weird. I mean, there's no other way to determine that that's really not in alignment with kindness, or mocks you for your skin color, so on and so on. So here the spiritual practices in doing that inner work to align ourselves in the truths. And I'm sure many of you who have had this experience of unkindness have done much inner work, but this allows us to even go deeper. So here's the practice. You think of someone who was unkind to you, their behavior, their words were hurtful. And so you just go to that experience of whatever that hurtful words were or the behavior was, and then take it that deep breath, and then you identify, how are you feeling? Were you upset? Were you angry? Were you frustrated? And then we know lots of times we hear that they triggered me, that triggered me. And one of the things through taking responsibility is knowing that, yes, that behavior is not in alignment with their divinity by any shape of the imagination. But if I am reacting to, let's say, you're a fat pig, so to speak, okay? And I have that reaction in me, that somehow the lie and myth that I have believed about myself is still somewhat activated within me because there's fire there, right? And that there's something that is needing healing and releasing. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to hang out with that person anymore, maybe, possibly, but it is also the signal that something in me is still believing into some kind of myth or untruth about myself. And so I could offer myself some self-compassion, speak words of kindness to myself, put my hands over my heart, tell myself how hard that was to receive this unkindness, this harshness. And then we move into claiming what it is that we want to feel in this moment. What truth about ourselves do we want to claim in this moment? And then there's the invitation to affirm the golden rule. Thank you for this gift. And the prayer that Matt Kahn wrote in his book that I will share with you in a moment. So just to give you an example, all right? So here, the person who hurt me, Sammy, okay, I'm just making up something. And so the situation is the person, let's say, came before you or me and said, boy, you're gaining got a lot of weight, like you're just letting yourself go. Right. So let's imagine in that moment that the feelings that came up when that was said was embarrassment and insecure. And the myth I was believing somewhere deep inside of me is that I'm unlovable and I'm not enough. And so then we move into that self-compassion, and then we call up the feelings that we really want to empower ourselves. And so the feeling of, the feeling of being empowered, feeling of being secured, what does that look like? And that can only be moved into when we begin to give ourselves some self-compassion. And then we name the truth about ourselves. I am lovable. I am loving. I am beautiful. I am powerful. So I'm going to ask Matt to put in the chat box. I gave you something. Oh, he did put it there. I think the golden rule, number 3, practice for you to take with you. If you want to do this at home, as a healing practice, it could be very powerful. So what I'd like you to do right now is just take a moment, if you feel so inclined, is close your eyes. Think of someone who said something hurtful, did something hurtful, and just imagine them. Imagine you back in that experience as you begin to take some deep breaths. Notice what feelings arose in that hurtful experience. And what myth or lie might that be attached that you might believe that is untrue about yourself? Now, either rubbing your sides of your legs or placing your hands on your heart to say, wow, that was really tough. That was really painful. And then take a deep breath. And then visualize yourself from the space of what feelings do you want to call forward? Is it courage? Is it love, compassion, power, security? And what truth do you want to claim for yourself? Saying a statement of an I am beautiful, I am bold, I am powerful, I am worthy. Whoever is typing, I invite you to mute yourself. Thank you. And now with that person held deep within your heart, close your eyes, or if you do better visually, keep them open as you hold this individual and say these words. Thank you for this gift. I may not have liked the gift when I initially opened the package. There is no doubt it's only destined to make me better than I've ever been before. Doesn't make the action okay. In fact, that it isn't okay is why I offer forgiveness, to ensure no one else may be harmed by the actions of my unprocessed pain. If there's any justice in this world, may I be more evolved than those who have hurt me. So in knowing my deepest pain, I guarantee that no one in my presence shall ever endure the pain that I have endured. This helps me break the cycle of abuse. Through forgiveness, unfairness is a gift that only helps me be more kind. Thank you, unfairness. Thank you for this gift. And now with eyes closed, I bring us to our closing today. Through the experience of devastation, let me be transformed by the wisdom of my divine soul. Through betrayal, let me learn to trust myself deeper. Through heartache, let me become more open. Through criticism and judgment, let me become more compassionate. Oh, no one deserves the hurtful things that happens to them. Life is not a matter of deserving. It is an opportunity, a divine rite of passage. And so to all those I encounter and have encountered, and for all that I have experienced and have yet to experience, I say, thank you for this gift. Namaste. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Angela. That was wonderful. I'm going to share a story in fellowship that is related to what you're talking about today.
I look forward to that.
Thank you. It's a proud mama story, actually. And I will now read our affirmation. Centered in the consciousness of appreciation and the desire to allow things to be a gift in my life, I move through challenges with grace and ease. Our guardian angel will now stop recording the service.